Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Are we pumped after that very interesting conversation? Thank you so much for having me. When they talked to me about this opportunity, I jumped on it right away. I think you guys really, truly are the future of this country, not just amongst our leaders like these 4 students here with us, but also as a journalist, because if you guys look around, all these students have been behind the camera, taking over and learning from others as well to do better journalism, since media is for sure, as we saw tonight, a very important form of our democracy. So once again, thank you to the PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs. I, as a student here in Los Angeles, would have loved to have had this to empower me and inspire me in journalism when I was young, and just in terms of like any career I wanted to do. So I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. It's very admirable. I hope you guys take advantage of just being here and learning from each other and making these connections, and then being able to have these conversations with your friends and with your family. Yes, so we're obviously very exciting about the upcoming election, a big year next year, Census 2020, presidential elections 2020, and of course, Univision, we've been covering them, since the midterms last year. So something that we do every day and that we have to talk about every day, that is obviously very important. And I'm just really excited to talk to you guys, to hear from you. I just loved also everything that you guys were saying right now, things that were in address. So we will have time at the end when we give the mic to you, and you guys will be able to ask some questions. But first of all, we would love to get to know you, who you are, what school you go to, and where you live. John, we start off with you.
Hi, I'm John Polk. I'm a senior. I go to West Ranch High School. I'm 18. I will be voting for the first time in this upcoming election.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm a part of West Ranch TV. It's our student news kind of daily show that we do. So I write the scripts. I kind of make sure that everything flows. I, cover the stories, things along that nature.
Great.
There you go, Mike.
Hello.
Hi, I am Julia Escobar. I am 16 years old. I will not be able to vote in the upcoming election because I will be 17, but still excited to be here, still excited to talk to all of you guys and to engage with all of you. I'm the editor-in-chief of my school's newspaper. I go to Venice High School. Yeah.
We got a lot of Venice High School students.
Yeah, we have a whole little group over there. I was just, SRO has, oh my goodness. Our student reporting hub is really small at Venice because it started in May, and we had someone who was a senior who wanted to be a producer, so she's the person that led all of us. So we're kind of not dying off, but like it's a lot smaller, but we are making a video, and I'm super excited to be a part of that.
Great, thank you. Josh.
Hi, my name is Joshua Rush. For the last almost 2 years, I have been running News in a Rush, a weekly news series geared towards young people, where I try to break down the learning curve that the news has. So that has been my passion and my life's work, but for the last 15 years, I have also been an actor. I'm proud to be a part of this generation. I just turned 18, literally on Saturday, so I will finally be able to vote. So I'm celebrating that birthday, but I'm also celebrating everyone in this generation that is going to be able to vote for the first time. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Andre Tinoco. I'm 19 years old and I go to Mount San Antonio College in Walnut. I'm the staff reporter for our digital publication, SAC Media. And I'm 19 years old. I'm going to be a first time voter, so this is exciting.
Woo!
Great, this is so beautiful. Just young people being involved and learning and taking part in journalism. I love it. Let's start off with your first impressions. What were those moments that caught your attention? What was your favorite moment, if you had one, of the debate tonight?
I think everyone thinks that Buttigieg versus Warren spar was awesome. I think the room lit up as soon as Warren started calling him out. Having these closed donations, having these parties with people with $900 champagne, things like that. Basically calling him out for he tries to play this act as if he's this poor mayor from South Bend, but he's the one who takes the most billionaire money. He's the one who takes the most money from the wealthy. So it's good on Warren for calling him out for that.
Great. Julia.
Do you want to go?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you. I think that was definitely the moment that stood out. I think that was, most people here would probably agree that was, yeah, some nods, yeah, okay. I certainly noticed a lot of Mayor Pete kind of positioning himself as, I'm the only person on this stage who isn't a millionaire or a billionaire, in the case of Tom Steyer. But the thing is, that people don't talk about Pete is he was raised with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was raised affluent. He was private school educated. When he talks about his net worth, he doesn't take stock of this immense privilege that he has had all throughout his life. Whereas other candidates on that stage did not have that privilege growing up. Elizabeth Warren had to go to a $50 a semester community college and worked her way up to teach at Harvard and to become a United States Senator and then to become a serious candidate for the presidency of the United States. Mayor Pete has really failed upward for most of his life. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else would like to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely think that little battle kind of shook everybody up. I don't think Mayor Buttigieg is kind of who he said he is. I mean, he likes to, I like how he remains calm in almost everything. His demeanor is very calm. It's almost like from what my perspective was, it was kind of like he was just reciting the same thing over and over. Like you said, his donors, and I really like that Warren really she kind of just put him on blast and really just, you could see how his reaction, it kind of changed his voice, his tone, everything. He was shook. And so I think it definitely, that was the highlight of it.
Was there anything that you learned from the candidates that you didn't know before? Was anything that struck you that from anything they said?
I think Tom Steyer, right? I think for me, he kept saying the same things over and over. I feel like in the last debate, he was saying he supported the people next to him and a couple of the things that they said, and he just kept saying the same things over and over. Said he can go toe-to-toe with Trump because of what his business background, but how? He didn't really explain how for me. So it was kind of, watching him was kind of like, for me, I was looking at him like, I don't really understand why you're up there, talking about, like money buying into get it, or money getting into the White House. It's kind of like, well, why are you on stage? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Anyone else?
Well, I think the point with Steyer is he's just the epitome of a hypocrite. He's talking about the wealth tax. He's talking about we need the rich need to pay their fair share, things like that. But if you look at who spent the most advertising dollars, Steyer spent $80 million in TV advertising. I think nationally, with Bloomberg at $100 million, and then the next highest is Bernie at $8 million. It's ridiculous. You can clearly see that Bloomberg and Steyer are both just buying their way into polls and buying their way onto the stage.
And it showed.
Is that something that you guys agree, disagree? What's your take on that in money in politics?
It's disappointing to watch candidates like Bloomberg and candidates like Steyer be able to buy their way higher in the polls. There are only a couple of candidates on that stage right now who are not eyeing their way on. I think it's the candidates who you see at the very top. I think it's Bernie and I think it's Warren. And those two candidates, along with to a somewhat lesser extent, they all have PACs. Biden violated his no fossil fuel money pledge, which just makes us all feel, I'm sure, super confident about how he talks about the climate crisis. But no matter what, you look at a candidate like Steyer, and one of the things that he came out with really quick was that he started need to impeach, and he was one of the first people on that stage who called for the impeachment of the president. And yeah, that's true. He was the first person on that stage, but he certainly wasn't the first candidate. He certainly wasn't the first person to call for the impeachment of the president. That was Julian Castro, who even talked about it in the very, very first debate. So where was Julian Castro? Where was Cory Booker? Julian Castro was even ignored when Yang called out for Cory Booker and for Kamala Harris. It's disappointing to see really important voices left out of the debate, and instead, Tom Steyer gets to buy his way in and talk moderate politics with everyone.
Well, what do you guys think? Because I believe all the Democrats on the stage signed something that was supposed to be sent to the DNC about changing the requirements to enter into the debate. Because people like Booker didn't get into this one, Castro didn't get in.
Yeah, thank you for that follow-up question. How do you guys feel? I know there was a response from the audience, but how do you guys feel with these terms when it comes to these debates? We've seen Julian being very active on social, not okay with the way they've been structured, Booker as well, and then Andrew Yang being very adamant about it as well, and including them when it came to the topic of diversity and race.
I don't want to take this question. Oh, you don't want to take it.
I think it's about looking at who's been on the front lines and who's just been kind of talking throughout the debates. Because, we look at Bernie Sanders, who's been popular in the debates, but he's very active on social media. He's active in engaging with the people who he's trying to get across to. And I think we have to, as voters, we have to pay attention to not only what they're saying, but what they're doing, because I think it's one thing to have a promise, but it's another thing to have a plan. And so I think when we really analyze that and look at who's actually doing what they say they're doing, like when Warren brought up, she passed 100 laws, or 100 bills rather. I thought that was something that really stood out to me, because it's like she's talking about what she wants to do, and she has the evidence to back that up, that she's capable of getting things done. Sorry, it sounds like diverting them.
No, that's great. Anybody else would like to add to that?
No, I just agree with you, Andre. I think social media is a big, how they get their message out there is huge. You can see it in Andrew Yang just surging, just simply because of that. He has a lot of grassroots support and a lot of support just because he's so interactive with his kind of following.
And Andrew Yang at the beginning talked about just these topics that have misled the idea of President Trump being in office, racism, xenophobia, all these ideas that they always blame the president. I think that was a very opening statement. Everybody was tweeting about it. Everybody was commenting about it. How did you feel about that?
I think he's spot on. I think if the Democrats try to run on a platform of Trump is racist and misogynistic, and Trump is just he represents everything. He's just trying to bring about white supremacy. If they try to run on that again, they're gonna lose. You can't. It just isolates all of his supporters. When you do that, all they want to do is prove you wrong and vote for him again. They need ideas.
I will say it's worth saying, because it's true, that Donald Trump is a racist. It's worth saying that he's xenophobic. It's worth saying that he is the worst president in recent memory. It should be said because it's true. But at the same time, when we come out here and we say that, but we're not addressing the real problems that real Americans face, yeah, of course we're not going to win anyone over. Of course nobody is going to simply vote for our candidate because we're saying the other one sucks. Back it up. Back it up with policy that really affects real Americans. Back it up with the policy in medicine. How am I going to afford my medicine? It doesn't make a difference if the president is racist, if the alternative isn't telling me anything about how I'm going to be able to pay for my chemotherapy.
Julia, do you feel there were any candidates that did a good job connecting to viewers?
Sorry. Should be on.
Hello.
You got this.
Oh my God.
We believe in you.
You're good.
I'm very nervous. I don't know if you can tell, I haven't been speaking, but I am very nervous.
It's okay. We all
All
are.
good.
We all are nervous.
I think Bernie Sanders did a really good about reaching out to the immigrant community. As a person of color, I found it really comforting to know that he is behind it and wants to give all of the 12 million or billion immigrants a way to get citizenship and give DACA to the 1.2 billion kids that are here. I found that really nice because my community, I go to a predominantly low income school with a lot of people of color, and a lot of the issues they face is, well, I'm kind of scared to go to school because I might get deported. And I think that's really powerful. I think that Bernie talking about it, even though he does not come from a background of immigrant parents or any type of, I think it's really powerful.
Great job, thank you. That was another very interesting conversation that we saw at the debate tonight, and it was about race. And Andrew answered it, and then Bernie answered it, and you wanted to talk about climate change. How did you feel about that?
Do you want to take this question?
Yeah, anybody can answer this.
I'm white, I don't want to start.
As far as the race thing, I think it's always been an issue. It's more of a sensitive topic for candidates to talk about. But I don't really want to get too into it just because I don't really have strong feelings towards it. But I really like how they mainly address climate change and how, because that's something that I think about as a 19-year-old. Do I want to have a family? Am I going to be able to raise a family? Are we going to have a sustainable planet? Those are the things that I think about. And so when we have candidates talking about that and having conversations on how to resolve that and how we're going to fix that, I think it's very important. It's a very important conversation to have.
You think they didn't talk enough, or they should have, or they talked too much about climate change?
I think they talked about it enough. They just didn't. I don't know. I feel like it was touched on, but maybe it could have gone a little bit deeper. Maybe.
I will say it was great to see the issue of reparations brought up in the debate. I think that that's an important issue that we should be able to see every candidate's views on. But the issues that are affecting Black people, Indigenous people, people of color right now, issues like policing, issues like housing, were not broached at all, not once in this debate. So I would love to see a discussion between these candidates about demilitarizing our police. I would love to see a discussion between these candidates about making our police forces not racist. It's been disappointing not to see it.
So John, go ahead.
As kind of we continue through this process and through this primary and everything, it's great to see the issue of climate justice and justice for all people being brought up as an issue of race as well. Because the first people to be affected by climate change are not going to be the people living on Park Avenue in Manhattan. It's going to be the people in the global south who are already being affected by it, by these massive floods in Bangladesh, fires. The effects of climate change are being felt right now in Somalia, and we're talking about it like it's an issue for the future. Just because it's an issue for the future for those of us who live on Venice Boulevard in LA does not mean it's an issue for the future for everyone in this country and everyone on the planet. It's an issue for right now, and it's an issue that's not affecting white people first, it's not affecting affluent people first, it's one that's affecting people of color first, indigenous people first, and indigenous people and people of color, and I realize the irony in me sitting here and talking about this as a white guy, as an affluent guy. But it's important that we center everyone's views. But it's really important that we center the people who are being affected by this first. Those are indigenous people and people of color.
I agree with you. It's a problem, and we need to address it in some manner. I think the biggest issue for the candidates is they realize they can't go too far to the extremes. One of the moderators asked Joe Biden a question, would you be able to, work with climate change in order to, if you had to cut thousands to hundreds of thousands of blue-collar jobs? And that's just like, that's where Trump won. He won in the Rust Belt. He won because of those blue-collar jobs. So that's where they run into the issue where they can say that they'll push a climate change agenda now while it's in the primary, but by the time they get to the general election, they're going to go back to the center on that.
That's somewhere that I kind of take issue, which is with kind of the line of questioning that was brought here. Because when we level with what the actual policies are, that a lot of these candidates like Bernie and Warren, who are bringing climate change to the very, very center, a lot of them include an equitable transition for people who are working in fossil fuel communities. But that's not being talked about because that's not the question that's coming up. The question that comes up all the time is, are you going to raise taxes? When in reality, there's no taxes to raise if there's no planet. So when we come in and we have questions like about the wealth tax that Elizabeth Warren is proposing that's going to be used to fund medical coverage and is going to be used to cover these climate change expenses. When they come in on it, the first question that was asked is, how's it going to affect union members? And it's about the worries of union members, when in reality that ignores the fact that if we tax the rich and we use those taxes to fund public programs like those proposed by these progressive candidates, in the end, that's going to help union members, not hurt them.
No, I don't have anything to say about the union members. When it comes to climate change, I just think it's telling when something like the Green New Deal, for instance, that AOC brings up, they send it to a vote and everyone votes president. No one wants to vote on it. And why is that? Because you either believe in it and you will vote yes, but why wouldn't they do that? It's because they know that people will look at their voting records, see that they voted for that, see that they voted for a bill that would have banned planes within 10 years.
The Green New Deal does not do that. That's a Republican talking point.
The Green New Deal does not ban airplanes.
No, it does not ban airplanes.
What does the Green New Deal do?
The Green New Deal is a non-binding resolution, we should just say. So
Why did no one vote on it? Why did everyone vote president? They knew that it would kill their political career.
Talking points are strong.
They knew it would kill their political career.
To fall into the Fox News hole. I'm sorry.
No, if they knew that it was politically savvy to vote for it, they would have done it. They didn't. They knew that they would lose Republican voters immediately.
It was politically savvy to run Hillary Clinton in 2016, and she lost. We've tried a moderate candidate, and it hasn't worked.
Sorry. Let's not move away from the debate, guys. From tonight's debate. Interesting points when it comes to climate change. Julia, I know you wanted to say something, or?
I think I wanted to say something about the first question you asked. How are the candidates getting like younger people's attentions? And I think something that they didn't talk about was Bernie did talk about how like he encouraged like people to vote. Like it's the younger generation, it's Gen Z that's going to be voting this in this upcoming election. But something he didn't talk about was how like the incarcerated don't have like the ability to vote, or in some states. I know there are a couple states that
right.
When you are incarcerated you cannot vote, but once you get out you can.
Right.
But people that are on parole or on probation, they don't have the opportunity to vote. Even some states, once you've been incarcerated, even when you're out, when you're off parole, when you're off of probation, you're not able to vote, and that's sad because you've done your time, you've done your time, but you still can't vote. Like you don't have a say in your government, the people that put you into prison, because I know that's a really big issue, even in LA, because LA is like the top city that incarcerates people.
Right.
And it's mainly towards black and brown students, or people, not just students, sorry. Yeah.
Great. Good point. Very good point. In terms of that as well, when it comes to incarceration, I don't think one of the issues that wasn't brought up at all was guns and safety in schools. When a few weeks ago, there was a shooting not that far from here in Santa Clarita, in your hometown in Santa Clarita at Saugus High School. And it was very interesting that wasn't brought up in a state where this topic is very important. How did you guys feel about that?
I mean, it was surprising. I thought for sure they would bring it up. On the way here, I was on Twitter and I saw there was a shooting at a Oklahoma City mall. So I couldn't believe that wasn't something that was brought to the forefront. I thought for sure the moderators would have brought that up.
Yeah, I agree. I go to a school that has an open campus. It was built in like the 30s, so it's really old, and there's no gate. You can just walk out. You can just walk out. People can just walk on, and that makes us vulnerable. But I don't think I should be worrying about whether someone's going to shoot at my school when I should be worrying about my grades, getting into college, passing this final. I shouldn't be worrying about like someone coming onto my open campus and shooting a school and making a threat. Like that shouldn't. No student should have to worry about that. And it's like disappointing that they didn't even talk about it, because even, like a student on this panel whose school is like not even a mile from what like the shooting that just happened, and they didn't talk about it. Like that's really disappointing.
Anybody else?
So, and actually, I'd like to see from the crowd. Last night, there was a shooting. 4 people died in the South Park Mall in San Antonio. Can I just see a show of hands if anybody had heard of that? No one? You heard of it. So one person in this room with 100, maybe a little bit more than 100 people in it, had heard of this shooting where 4 people died. I was at the South Park Mall not more than a month ago. I was there. It could have been me. How many times have I been in a place where I could have been the victim of gun violence? How many people in this room, now in comparison to that one person who knew about this shooting last night, how many of you know someone who has been personally affected by gun violence? Yeah, there's a lot more hands. That's a problem. Why are we not talking about this massive, massive issue on a debate stage with the candidates who are trying to lead us through it? It's disappointing to not see that brought up. It was brought up in a passing comment once. But where is the conversation about the South Park Mall? Where is the conversation about Oklahoma City, about Santa Clarita? And why also is this issue only brought up when it's politically convenient? Gun violence is an issue that plagues our entire country. It doesn't plague it uniformly. It affects people of color, communities of color. It affects them first. We have to be able to protect everyone, no matter where they are from. And I'm not going to talk policy. I'm not allowed to talk policy.
Yeah, I agree. Just adding to that as well, as a student, it's scary, but also for our educators. They have to worry about keeping us safe now. Before it was just getting us engaged in the classroom. Before it was just keeping us in a learning environment. Now there's training on active shooters. There's training on where to hide, where not to hide. And I think it should have been a more talked about topic, especially given we are in LA, and this is, yes, we just had a shooting a few weeks ago, and I think it's scary because, yeah, we go to school not to worry about getting shot, getting killed, dropping our little brothers, our little sisters off. Are we going to see them when we get home? Are we going to see them after school? That's something that, I mean, we have to really look at and think about, like, is it a gun thing? Is it mental health? It should be something that should be talked about more. And I feel like today it definitely, for me, I was a little disappointed because I wanted to hear more about that.
Yes. Thank you, Andre. We're about to close it up with some questions. Second to last, who do you think was the strongest candidate tonight?
I think Elizabeth Warren, again, calling out corruption and calling out Mayor Pete for all the money he takes, very strong. I'd also put Bernie in there. He called out Biden and Buttigieg, and then Yang started off really strong as well.
Julia?
I agree. I think Bernie was amazing in engaging the younger audience and just talking about things, just like reinforcing ideas that he had already said. And Also Elizabeth Warren. I wasn't super like tied to her, but I think it's really great that we have a woman front runner, and I think people really like her, and people are actually like thinking about voting for her.
I think
Go for it.
I think for me, I don't know, it's more of like a tie between like Yang and Warren, because I think Yang is getting more and more comfortable on that stage. And I
Yes,
think
he is.
when he first, started out and he introduced that $1,000 freedom, what is it, freedom dividend, it was like, oh, this guy's crazy. And then now seeing him on this stage, on this platform, he's talking about real things and he's addressing real things. But also Warren, I think she showed out today, and she showed out.
Josh?
I agree. Warren definitely showed up. Bernie definitely showed up. And in that exchange with Pete, I think Warren absolutely showed how she would be able to handle a debate stage with Trump, because they were going back and forth really fast,
Right.
really hard. And that is something that Donald Trump is known to do and he can do. And that's something that is incredibly important to watch.
Awesome, guys. Really fast, last one. How do you think debates should be changed to connect and engage with young viewers?
Okay. I know this is something that can't be changed, but the fact that the debates are more than 2 hours, it's just hard for someone to, or hard for kids to like understand it. And also if you don't have a lot of background to what they are saying, at least like this far into the debates, it's hard to understand what they're saying. It's hard to understand like the policies that they're reaching to. It's hard to understand because you're getting so much information all at once, and it's hard to process. Like especially for like, well, I guess just for me, I just have a hard time processing things when people are just speaking. So I don't know what they can actually do to change that, because I know like they kind of should be able to like say what I have to say, and it doesn't really matter how, it does matter how long it takes, but it just shouldn't be as long, and I don't know how they can change that. Yeah, or like there should be like a recap at the end of like the top highlights. I know like podcasts are a great way of doing that, but
Yeah, podcasts really change everything, to be honest.
yeah, they really
Like,
do.
The fact that that these candidates have 75 seconds to get in a quick soundbite and distill their entire platform into this quick little digestible thing. Like Bernie Sanders to me has always just seemed like a crazed, like, oh, what is he proposing here? And then he goes on the Joe Rogan podcast for 2.5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And his ideas just sound like, like he can actually articulate them. Like he has the oxygen to just like speak. Yeah. So I don't know how that translates into a debate where you have 7 candidates. Like, we'd be here for 10 hours. But certainly, giving the candidates more room where they don't have to try to fit their entire platform into one soundbite that will get retweets. Like I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think it's more diving into the key things that affect us the most. Like when Yang brought up depression, and I think that really hit home, because so many of us are dealing with a numerous amount of things, whether it's our situations at home, even with school. I just finished finals, and that was like the worst, stress ever. But like you know what I'm saying? Like I think talking more about things that hit home for us. Not that the topics that they talk about and debate on aren't as important, because they're all very critical. But I think, talking about, I know I'm going like on and on, but just talking about things that hit home for us and what we truly care about. I think that's what will get us more engaged.
Thank you, Andre.
I think one thing that I have said from the very beginning, and I said it a lot when I was creating News in a Rush, is that young people, and people in general, but I don't know, I feel special, and I like to make myself feel special, and I'm a young person, and I feel like young people have got an incredible sense of morality and an incredible sense of values that come through. I know it when I talk to my peers, when I talk to the people who I have met in this room. I know it, and I've experienced it. So when a candidate comes out and they immediately feel disingenuous, or when a candidate comes out and it immediately feels, I'm just trying to get my soundbite in. I'm just trying to get my pre-planned thing. Oh, I've already got the t-shirts made for this.
It's not authentic.
It's not authentic. And I want candidates to be given the opportunity to, like you said, have more time to share their views and actually be authentic with their views, because young people will follow where the policies are. But if we're not given the opportunity to see what those policies are, how are we supposed to decide who to vote for?
Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much to our fabulous students today. A question from social. How can students, like students on the piano who are involved in media classes at their schools, use their influence to promote youth voices? Anyone?
You have an Instagram where you do this. Why don't you? I know you. Yeah.
I'm trying to not suck up all the air. Though I have a tendency to do that.
You're good.
I think elevating as many voices as possible is something that's so crucial. And the four of us can sit up here as much as we want, but there are super valuable voices from the other 100 people in this room who have got things to share, who have got things to say, and they should be listened to. So whether it's including people on social media and elevating the voices that aren't just blue check marks, you know, I want to see candidates, but I also want to see young people elevating each other and making each other the voices. It's great to see a young leader like Greta Thunberg in the climate strike movement, and it's incredible to see that. But what's also been amazing to see is the way that she has tried to use her voice, and of course the media tries to paint it like it's just her, but she tries to use her voice, and there are these incredible other youth leaders who are leading in the climate movement. I want to see those voices elevated, and I want to see us as young people who are this huge voting bloc. Y'all know we're like, wait, hold up.
It's like 10%.
Yeah.
We're 10%, but along with millennials, we're going to make up 37% of the 2020 electorate. We got to go out there. We all have to register to vote. I hope y'all are all registered if you're 18. Or pre-registered. I'm registered.
I'm there.
Yeah. But I hope we can all go out there and start elevating the voices of our fellow young people. And that we can all start elevating the opinions of our fellow young people. Because that's how we make our voice heard. We might be 37% of the electorate. Our Gen Z itself might be 1 in 10 voters. But we can make ourselves sound like 10 million if we continue to elevate ourselves and support each other.
Yeah, I think it's just be true to you and tell your story, because as you know, when trying to engage in your audience, you're not gonna gain a following, or no one's gonna listen to you if you're just talking, if you're not being authentic. And I think that's a huge part of being a voice, being authentic, saying what you've been through, what you've experienced, and how you want to use those negative or positive experiences for the better, or for what you believe in. I think just being real in who you are and following what you believe in is so critical, and I think that's a huge part of it.
Great. Julia, are you guys?
I'm fine.
Well, great points, you guys. Thank you so much. And I think that's all the time we have now. We even went over our time. Sorry. Thank you once again, John, Julia, Josh, Andre, for being here. Give them another big round of applause, please. They were amazing. I know there was a lot of other topics you wanted to bring up, but we only had 30 minutes. Thank you for being here tonight. It was lovely to host this, to moderate this panel with you. You guys are amazing. You guys are doing amazing things.
Thank you.
Keep doing all these amazing things, and make sure that you continue to elevate all these voices, and that we all here do that work as well. As we learned earlier, this is the first of several youth media events that Student Reporting Labs will present throughout 2020 through the election and beyond. So be sure to follow SRL on social and encourage others to participate. Thank you for being here once again, and stay connected to SRL and PBS NewsHour. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you for inviting me, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.